And that happened after our football preview. So we kind of have to backtrack, and we want to give Windham their due. We're going to preview Windham's football season. Ty, I know you did a lot of work on this over the weekend. You were the one that kind of steamboated the fact that, we need to get Windham's previewed up and talk about the Bombers and what their football team should expect this season.
Well, thankfully, too, partnering with Brandon McPherson has helped out tremendously, getting all the information we could possibly need on the Windham Bombers. So shout out to Brandon McPherson for a lot of the information and the preview coming to you of this year's Windham Bombers football team. So the Windham Bombers last year were a team that was, I think they're trying to take a step in the right direction. They came out 2-4 last year in the regular season. There is 14 freshmen coming in on the team this year. But I mean, looking at players, some names to watch returning on offense. You got Chase I, you got Wyatt Handsaw, Camden Hoskin, Michael N. Jones. A lot of just athletes are on this team. Burt Jones is another one too. James Hood. There's a lot of athletes all over on the team, and I think that's partly why both Brandon McPherson and Coach Jack is so hot on this team, because it's tremendously athletic, and it's also a very young team from year 1 to year 2. A lot of other teams in that boat, but they're very confident in this team. They have a lot of confidence of this team's offense going forward into this season. And certain guys too, like Camden, Sean, Zach, Anthony, and Caleb are all really, really good on the line too, is what we have from McPherson. So, I mean, expecting the offensive line to be very good this year, on top of the fact that they were an offense that only scored just under 15 points per game. So it's an offense that needs a little bit of room to improve, but there's a lot of room for improvement on the offense. And I think that's what you're going to see from Windham, is they're taking another huge step, I think, offensively, because they have the athletes in place. Football, Anthony, and offense, especially if you're coming into a new scheme, or if you're a new guy getting some playing time, either as a freshman or a sophomore. It's kind of hard. It takes about a season of adjustment getting used to a playbook, and an offensive playbook. Not always does practices before a season help, especially in a COVID year like 2020 was. So I think this year, the offense of Windham is going to tremendously benefit from having full practices and a lot more time to go over the game plan and the playbook for the tremendous athletic squad they have over there.
That's going to be a big advantage for them, especially when you talk about 14 freshmen coming into the fold. The more time you can have in summer, the better to bring those freshmen along and get them as ready as possible for week 1.
Yeah, and I mean, the Eyes are not shy to success. Jack Eye, the coach, making it to Major League Baseball at some point in his career. So he had a career down there, as well as his daughter being a UFC fighter, or his cousin Jessica Evil Eye. I don't know if you know her. She's in the UFC, mentioning that too. But yeah, I mean, the Eyes are definitely those competitive bunch, and that they're a competitive bunch, and they have that drive. And I think having guys like Chase I on the team for Windham is going to definitely be driving the next generation of the I family.
The Eyes love
it. But yeah, I think this is an offense too that really didn't lose a whole lot. Clay Dean, I think, is the biggest loss for them this year. Was a running back last year, but I think you're going to see a lot of running out of Windham this year too. Camden Hoskin is going to be huge for blocking up front. I think Wyatt Handsaw didn't throw too much coming into a junior year as quarterback, so another one of those situations where we have a junior quarterback.
It's because of the trend.
We know he can use his legs a little bit. I'm excited to see what Wyatt Handsaw can do this year, though, on offense.
It's funny. Sorry, wrong one. Welcome to Monday. Whoa.
Yeah.
It's a team called the Bombers likes to run a lot. It's counterintuitive.
Yeah,
but they are a straight up run team. They love to run the football, and maybe they lost their best runner, but they're returning a couple of really promising legs that are going to give them a lot of production on the ground.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the good thing about Wyndham and what I think is going to give them the success is what was really good for them last year was defense, and that was partly the reason why they kept themselves in a lot of games, holding opponents to just under an average of 19 points per. So, I mean, yeah, you're only scoring around the neighborhood of 14, but you're allowing 19. I mean, you do the math and how much ground you need to make up offensively, but you know the defense is there because you're returning a lot of the same starters. You were able to stay competitive defensively, so we already know defense isn't an issue. It's just, can we get those points on the board so that way at the end of the game we're looking on top instead of a 20-14 loss. We might be looking at a 21-20 win or a 23-20 win.
You know, and not a lot of teams that we previewed had defenses that allowed less than 20 a game. So you have to help that defense out. They're working so hard. They're doing their job. It's hard to have a scoring defense below 20 in high school. We all know that. Like I said, a lot of teams that we covered, not too many of them were below 20 and on defense, a couple of them here and there. And almost none of them were below like 18. So definitely hard to keep teams down in high school. So you got to help your defense out because they're doing their job. 19 a game is wonderful for a defense.
And I mean,
help them out.
Especially too in that NAC conference, you got to remember, if people don't remember some teams in the NAC, I'll remind you of one. Pymatuning Valley is one of those, the 8-1 team, 6-0 in regular season last year. That's a team I think you're looking at right now. If you are Wyndham, saying we got to knock off Pie Valley for us to make it into the upper echelon of the NAC again, to get back to their winning conference ways of 2018.
Yeah, and we're going to get real familiar with the NAC now that we're covering Wyndham, and we're going to be having their home volleyball games and all of their football games broadcasting on ysnlive.com. We're gonna have to get real familiar with the NAC really quickly.
Yeah, especially too. I mean, especially when we have the Bombers this year too. I think they're going to be fun to watch. 12 returning Letterman, like I said, and just a preview to the defense, because we did talk about the Letterman returning, but we didn't really preview the defense too much. So to go through the defense, we talked about how they gave up less than 20 per game. Also gave up just a little bit over 200 yards a game total defensively, which is incredible. Guys like Camden Hoskin on the defensive line are going to be an absolute terror for this, and he's going to be in there for pass rush and for stopping the run. They can move him all around. I think they typically like to play him on the edges, and I think he's going to be the big guy to watch for coming into his senior year. The other guy too, Chase I. We talked about him too. We talked about the I family going into his junior year. Chase I, as a sophomore, defensive back last year for Wyndham, had 4 interceptions during the season, and I believe Wyndham was a team that only played a total of 6 games last year. I don't believe they played the season after. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they only played the 6 games last year. So if you're looking at 4 picks in 6 games from one young man, that lines up not only at just defensive back, he can play running back, he can play wide receiver, he can play a little bit of linebacker. They play him all over the place because he's just a phenomenal athlete, as you would expect from the I family.
What a blessing it must be for a coach to have someone you can literally put anywhere, and it's not going to be a liability.
I mean, presumably to your son. I mean, I can't expect Chase being anything else, but I mean, to be your son, pride. You talk about the look that siblings can give. Talk about that connection you have with your own son too, and that your son being that successful that could play anywhere on the field, that you have so much trust in your own flesh and blood, your own son, to say, hey, I trust you to go anywhere on the field because I know you're going to give us production.
And before we break down Wyndham's schedule, I want to remind everyone that the comments section is live, no matter what platform you are watching on, whether it be Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch. You can comment right there, and we'll see it. We'll put it up. The comments are live. Also, the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline is open. 330-886-0813 will get you through to us. We'd love to hear from our fans. And let's break down Wyndham's schedule now that we have taken care of that, and talk about what the Bombers have in front of them in this 2021 season.
Yeah, looking at the schedule for them, they open up the season with Lisbon starting off August 20th, They go to East Palestine on the 27th. On the 3rd, they're at Jackson Milton. 10th of September, they're home versus Ashtabula St. John. The 18th of September at Steubenville Catholic Central. 24th versus Southeast at home. The 1st versus Pie Valley at home. That is also senior night. The 8th is at Fairport Harbor of October, that is. The 15th versus Matthews at home. That is their homecoming. And the 22nd versus Southington Chalker at 7 p.m. on October.
And of course, that game is up in the air because Chalker right now is saying first 6 games, we can't play. We'll see after that. So it depends on what Chalker does, or what some people call them.
I'm hearing right now, and from Brandon McPherson, from what I heard, it's possibly either Rootstown or St. John again that's going to be on the docket. So we will see. But those are the 2 teams I'm hearing right now as a possible schedule if they can't play that Week 10 game.
Definitely stay tuned to ysnlive.com as that game gets closer, and we'll keep you updated on the official schedule of Windham and what they're looking forward to. And we will be previewing their volleyball team later on in the week when we get to Division 4 as well.
Yeah, and I mean, excited too that we have Windham at a full slate and a nice little welcoming piece of media for the Bombers too, as we take a look at their football team. The biggest games though that I'm looking at, I don't think we go any further than that Pie Valley game.
Yeah, it's got to be Pie Valley.
At October 1st game, I think if you want to be back at the top of the NAC and if you want to get back to your winning ways of just a few years ago, you got to beat the team that was already there. And I think Pie Valley is that team that's going to be there. Fairport Harding was also pretty tough last year, coming in at 4-2 in the regular season. But according to Brandon McPherson too, they're a team that's trying to figure out their roster. They only had 8 guys show up last time, so I think it's a recruitment issue right now with Fairport Harding. If they can get the guys there, I expect them to be competitive because they still have some athletes over there. But it's again one of those small town issues of just trying to get kids recruited to the school.
Yeah, and we're not unused to seeing teams have that issue, and we definitely
we've experienced with YSN schools as well.
Right. We definitely hope they can field the team and put guys out there, because everyone deserves to play football if they want to play football. I mean, I hate to tell 8 guys that come out for the team and show that commitment, sorry, you can't play because there's just not enough kids. I mean, it's heartbreaking. So hopefully they're able to fix that and get a team together. And like you said, with the athletes they have at Fairport Harbor, definitely a competitive team.
Yeah, and I mean it's definitely a team that I think is going to be interesting to follow throughout this season too. But I mean we'll be seeing them, and I'm sure we'll be talking about them a lot, being in the same division as Windham and the Bombers. So with us talking about Windham a lot, you might be hearing us mention the NAC now that we cover the Bombers.
NAC.
But I think this is definitely a team. Looking at the Bombers schedule, I think that October 1st game is going to be huge. It's home versus Pie Valley. That's the team I think you need to knock off. But also I think that stretch of 3 games, Lisbon, East Palestine, and Jackson Milton, you could come out and start off the season strong. You could start off 2-1. You could possibly even start off 3-0 too if you have a good enough season, or if you have a good enough start. And I think 3-0 really puts you in great position to make the playoffs after that point. But I think that those first 3 games are also going to be a very important first 3 game stretch to watch.
You start 3-0 in Division 7, you're sitting really pretty.
Absolutely. You're looking at maybe 2 more wins to follow after those first 3 initial wins, and you probably have booked your spot in the playoffs. That's just how Division 7 is looking this year.